Good evening. In the news tonight, President Bush is calling for an end to the violence triggered by drawings of the Prophet Muhammad. And a new study says more and more Americans are turning to prescription sleep aids to get a good night's rest.
In sports, the North Knox and Vincennes Reveille girls basketball teams picked up wins on the first night of sectional play, and the Hoosiers look to pick up their first Big Ten road win tonight.
Newscenter 22 is next. Six people are facing preliminary charges of manufacturing methamphetamine following a meth lab bust in Edwardsport early this morning. Knox County Sheriff's deputies found the lab after searching the home of Danny Lee Richard on North Jones Gap Road. Undercover officers have been watching activity at the house for the past few weeks. Arrested were Richards, 49-year-old Paul McGriffin of Bicknell, 18-year-old Stacy Poling of Edwardsport, 50-year-old Jack Richards of Bicknell, 40-year-old Michael Richards of Monroe City, and 25-year-old Travis Gilbert of Vincennes. All are being held at the Knox County Jail under $25,000 bond. A man and woman from Fridge Lick are facing cocaine charges following a traffic stop Tuesday afternoon on State Road 150, east of Paoli in Orange County. Indiana State Police say a trooper's canine indicated there were drugs inside the car driven by 50-year-old Henry Price. During a search of the vehicle, police located 8 grams of crack cocaine hidden in the pants of a passenger, 27-year-old Shanna Estrada. Both Estrada and Price are charged with dealing in and possession of cocaine over 3 grams. They are being held without bond in Orange County Jail. A state Senate committee today advanced a bill to the full Senate that would increase penalties against home repair people who scam the elderly. State Representative Phyllis Pond says phony repair scam Indiana's elderly residents who often have difficulties performing the home repairs themselves. Pond says the repairmen take the victim's money and then perform repairs crudely using paint that washes off or roof tar thinned with gasoline. The bill would require repair people to give clients their names and contact information. The proposal also makes home improvement fraud a felony if the consumer is at least 60 years old. That would allow suspects to be extradited back to Indiana if they are caught in other states. Meanwhile, a Senate committee today approved a bill designed to stop those unwanted offers for hot stock tips or vacation deals that spit out of your fax machine. Companies that send out junk faxes could face new fines unless they have previous business relationship with the person receiving the fax. Unlike Indiana's telephone do not call list, people and businesses would be automatically covered by the bill and wouldn't have to sign up to stop receiving unwanted faxes. It would allow the state attorney general to go after senders of unwanted faxes with a fine of up to $1,500 per violation. Attorney General Steve Carter says junk faxes are more than just an annoyance. They're a waste of paper and ink, too. Smokers beware! Illinois lawmakers are considering a statewide ban of smoking in public places, like restaurants, bars, and bowling alleys. Health advocates say smokers shouldn't inflict their smoke on employees and other customers. One expert says a waitress who breathes secondhand smoke for 8 hours has essentially smoked a pack of cigarettes. But business groups oppose a ban. They say customers can vote with their feet and choose whether to go to places that allow smoking. They also note that it is just a few months ago that lawmakers let individual cities decide whether to ban smoking. They say that process should be given more time. A House Health Care Committee approved the bill 6-4, sending it to the full House. The Indiana Department of Correction will improve security and education programs at its juvenile centers under an agreement with the U.S. Justice Department. Commissioner J. David Donahue says the agreement resolved a civil rights investigation. The Justice Department alleged last September that department violated the civil rights of juveniles held at facilities in Logansport, Plainfield, and South Bend. It said the juveniles were not protected from violent attacks by other prisoners, were put at risk by suicide by taking away their medication, and were not given adequate special education. Donahue says most of the problems have been corrected, but says the state must still work to provide special education programs. The U.S. Nuclear Regulatory Commission has approved Duke Energy Corporation's planned $9 billion acquisition of Cincinnati-based Synergy Corporation. Last May, Duke Energy agreed to buy Synergy in a deal that will create a company with about 5.4 million customers and $70 billion in assets. An acquisition still needs the approval of state regulators in North Carolina and Indiana. The deal, which will go before shareholders from both companies March 10th, is expected to close in April. Marsh Supermarkets is closing 9 stores at the end of the month and removing some top executives. The Indianapolis-based grocery store chain is closing a Marsh Supermarket in Fort Wayne, a Savings store in Muncie, a restaurant in Noblesville, and 6 Village Pantry convenience stores. The company's board of directors is also laying off 25 people at its headquarters, including President David Marsh, Executive Vice President Arthur Marsh, Vice President Don Marsh, Junior and Senior Vice President Joseph Herons. David Marsh will be replaced by his uncle William Marsh. In November, the company said it would consider offers to sell the supermarket chain. Marsh operates over 100 grocery stores in Indiana and Western Ohio. Toyota's top U.S. executive says it's up to the auto industry, not the president, to figure out solutions to the country's dependence on oil. Jim Press praised President Bush's emphasis on alternative fuels in his recent State of the Union address at the opening of the media preview at Chicago Auto Show. Press say Toyota could bring ethanol-capable vehicles to market very quickly, but instead of encouraging the government to spend more developing and promoting ethanol, he says private industry needs to decide whether to focus on fuel-saving technologies. Press says he's also optimistic about the state of the industry despite layoffs and billion-dollar losses at Ford GM. Still to come on Newscenter 22, President Bush is calling on world governments to help stop violence ignited by drawings of Prophet Muhammad. And 3 U.S. citizens have been convicted in Texas of several charges connected to a deadly smuggling operation. Stay with us.
Next time on Austin City Limits, 2 unique bands from the indie rock scene, Death Cab for Cutie. And My Morning Jacket.
President Bush says violence should not be the way to express discontent with what is printed in a free press. He's calling on governments around the world to stop the attacks that have been triggered by political cartoons depicting the Prophet Muhammad published in a Danish newspaper and reprinted across Europe. Secretary of State Condoleezza Rice says Iran and Syria have been adding fuel to the protests. Rice says the 2 countries are using the furor for their own purposes, and the world ought to call them on it. Meanwhile, 4 protesters were shot to death in Afghanistan today by police struggling to stop hundreds from marching on a U.S. military base. It was part of a demonstration against the political cartoons. President Bush is defending his plan to trim Medicare spending in the budget he just sent to Congress. He says it's a reasonable effort to rein in the cost of a program that's growing too fast. The president also told a business group in New Hampshire that critics portraying the spending plan as a big cut are wrong. Bush aims to save $36 billion over 5 years, mostly by reducing payments into hospitals and other health providers. But he says that'll just slow Medicare's spending growth by 0.4%. Many lawmakers have warned it'll be hard to approve Bush's plan in an election year. Also today, Bush signed a measure that squeezes $39 billion from Medicare, Medicaid, and other numerous programs. Sentencing has been set for May 1st for 3 people convicted in a human smuggling operation in which 19 people died after being trapped in an airtight truck trailer. Prosecutors say the 3 hid The three hid immigrants in their home, then moved them to other locations before the group was packed into the trailer in South Texas. Temperatures inside the trailer reached 130 degrees. Survivors testified about taking off their sweaty clothes for relief and crowding around holes punched in the truck so they could breathe. The three defendants are facing life sentences. Firefighters in Southern California are racing the clock and the weather to control fires in Orange County and near Malibu. Forecasts are calling for 90-degree heat and 40-mile-an-hour winds later in the day. Nearly 200 firefighters and a half-dozen helicopters were rushed to a small wildfire in Santa Monica Mountains behind Malibu nearly today. The 25-acre fire is creeping slowly southwest but does not immediately threaten any homes. However, 3 elementary schools and a high school were closed as a precaution. In Orange County, a 7,000-acre fire in the Cleveland National Forest is less than a quarter encircled. Investigators are inspecting the tracks and footprints and looking for a dark-colored SUV as they track down possible clues of the latest series of suspicious church fires in Alabama. They say common sense tells them that the 4 fires yesterday and the 5 last week are probably connected. We've all heard that a low-fat diet can reduce the risk of heart disease and probably some cancers, but according to 3 new studies from the Journal of American Medical Association, that might not be the case. Medical correspondent Christy Figg has the details.
Ann Kelsall just wanted to eat better, so she signed up for a medical study looking at diet. She was told to eat very low fat.
I had very bad habits. Including salmon mousse made with whipped cream and lots of oil in my salad and all sorts of other things.
She ended up losing 15 pounds, but it turns out her efforts won't reduce her risk of heart disease, breast, or colon cancer. That's according to 3 studies in the Journal of the American Medical Association. Among the findings, there was a slight reduction in breast cancer risk for women on a low-fat diet, but the researchers say it could have been chance.
There was clearly a trend that suggested reduced risks. However, it was not statistically significant.
Women eating a low-fat diet reported fewer colon polyps.
It is possible that over time, that reduction in polyps could translate into a reduction in colorectal cancer.
But the real puzzle is that the low-fat diet did not reduce the risk of heart disease, since previous studies have shown it does. Dr. Elizabeth Nabel of the National Institutes of Health thinks that's because the diet in the study did not focus on bad fats.
We know from the heart literature that if you work on reducing the bad fats and try to limit your intake to the good fats, you will reduce your risk for heart disease.
Those bad fats include saturated fats, usually animal fat, and trans fats, found mainly in processed foods. I'm Christy Figg reporting from Washington.
An encouraging news in a new long-term study on people who are very premature infants. Researchers in Canada say many of the infants appear to play catch-up by early childhood and reach levels of employment and education that are similar to normal-wage children. The most reassuring findings are based on studies of 166 premature babies who were born in the late 1970s and early 80s. The babies, who were born in Ontario, weighed 2 pounds or less. The results of the Canadian study contrast with other long-term studies. A Journal of the American Medical Association editorial says most subjects in the Canadian study were white and were from economically stable 2-parent families. Also, their health care was assured by Canada's national health system. An estimated 50 to 70 million Americans have trouble sleeping. More than ever before, we are turning to prescription sleep drugs to get a better night's sleep. Dr. Sanjay Gupta has the story.
It seems that Colette Marietta is always on the move, a job that takes her on the road, and 2 kids needing constant attention at home. By the end of the day, she is tired, so incredibly tired, yet she can't get to sleep.
Although my body's exhausted, I lay in bed and just millions of thoughts are going through my head. Did I sign the permission slip? Did I do this? Did I do that? Did I finish something for work?
She tried some basic things, eliminating caffeine, trying warm tea in a bath before bed, but nothing worked as well as a little pill, Ambien. When the doctor handed her a prescription for a sleeping pill, it was one of 42 million that were written last year. That's a 60% increase since 2000. And they are expensive, about $11 a pill, usually covered by insurance. Annual sales of prescription sleep medicine now top $2 billion.
It just totally relaxes me, and and I just am out like that. It's not an issue.
Not an issue because it works for Colette. But could she and her doctors be ignoring the root cause of her insomnia, anxiety, depression, or a chronic illness such as sleep apnea? Harvard psychologist Greg Jacobs says drugs are not a long-term fix for insomnia.
Sleeping pills don't change those behaviors, so they may work in the short run, but over a period of time, the brain kind of gets accustomed to them, they don't work as well.
Instead, Jacobs advocates something called cognitive behavior therapy, CBT, like establishing a regular bedtime, not exercising, watching TV, or using the computer before bed, and making a list of things to do before the lights go out. Jacobs has developed an online version at cbtforinsomnia.com, offering advice and feedback for a monthly fee.
Cognitive behavioral therapy is actually more effective in the long run.
That's not a message you'll hear on the hundreds of millions of dollars worth of television ads.
This great night's sleep brought to you by Lunesta.
Lunesta's maker, Seprecor, declined to comment for the story. A spokeswoman for Sanofi-Aventis, the maker of Ambien, said, when taken as prescribed, Ambien is a safe and effective treatment for insomnia. Colette doesn't want to stay on the pills forever, worried about side effects such as fuzzy-headedness and dependence.
I do worry long term, but I just keep hoping too.
Hoping her hectic life will slow down to get a good night's sleep. Dr. Sanjay Gupta, CNN, reporting.
Steve Fawcett is up in the air again. The aviation adventurer took off from a runway at the Kennedy Space Center this morning in an experimental aircraft, hoping to set a new distance record. His goal is to fly all the way around the world and then keep going across the Atlantic again to Britain. That's 27,000 miles, and he hopes to do it in 3.5 days, all by himself. Fawcett is planning 5-minute power naps and a steady diet of nutritious milkshakes. His sleek Virgin Atlantic Global Flyer took off from a 3-mile runway normally used for space shuttle landings. Fawcett already owns records for flying solo around the world by balloon and for the first solo plane flight around the world without stopping or refueling. Still to come on Newscenter 22, another cold night is in store for the Wabash Valley. Michael Nice will tell us how cold when we come back.
Tune into Wvut this Wednesday night. At 8 is the conclusion to America's Ballroom Challenge, with 24 ballroom dance couples facing off to earn the title America's Best. Stay tuned for African American Lives at 9, and the touching conclusion, Henry Louis Gates Jr.'s genealogical quest turns difficult when it comes to tracking the years before the Civil War. He uses legal documents to trace family trees for himself and some of his subjects. Wednesday night on Wvut.
Michael, the Wabash Valley experienced a blanket of snow this afternoon.
Well, that's right, Kristen. We did have a system move through, create some precipitation in the form of snow this afternoon around noontime, has since moved through. Good evening, everybody. And as we take a look outside to the University Tower cam, we can see some flurries still in action around. Mostly cloudy skies, some sun trying to peek through. 33 degrees is the current temperature out at the airport. Wind is north-northeast at 3 miles per hour. Wind chill not a factor today at 33 degrees, and the barometric pressure 30.15 and rising. If we take a look at our temperatures around the viewing area, we can see Washington 34 degrees and cloudy skies. Edwardsport 33 and cloudy. Down in Owensville, they're still experiencing some of that system moving through. Light snow showers they're going to come to an end in the next couple of hours. They're at 32 degrees, and over in Lawrenceville, cloudy skies and 28 degrees. Now, looking at our national temperatures map, we can see that this really defined warm front right here, these higher temperatures, this is a warm front moving its way from the Rocky Mountain area over into the northern plains, going to create some warmer temperatures for them. The hot spot today in the United States, 86 degrees for Los Angeles, California. Not good news for the fire out there. They're going to continue to experience some warm temperatures. The cold spot was up in Duluth, Minnesota, 5 degrees today for them. Now, the frontal map, If we take a look at that, we can see that high pressure will continue to dominate over the west coast, creating some clear skies for them. Cold front in the northwest around Seattle and Oregon going to bring some snow and rain for them. If we take a look to the east coast, we can see that this low pressure has formed an occluded front. This was the Clipper system yesterday that moved its way into the Wabash Valley, brought some snow to our area, not a whole lot. We had about a ½ inch to an inch of accumulation. Over farther east around Lawrenceville, only an inch to 2 inches. It's since moved its way through, and it's going to move into the Ohio valleys around Kentucky, Tennessee, 3 to 4 inches of snow for them in the coming night. For us, though, high pressure around Minnesota, it's going to dip its way down into the Wabash Valley, bringing some clear skies for the forecast. And if we take a look at our forecast, we can see tonight, mostly clear skies, low around 20 degrees. Tomorrow, mostly sunny, high of 35 degrees. For tomorrow night, some snow showers late, about a 30% chance for precipitation. Not much accumulation, though, low of 28 degrees. And for the extended forecast on Friday, mostly cloudy skies, 38 degrees the high, 24 the low. For Saturday, 30% chance for some snow flurries, 35 degrees the high, 23 the low. And for Sunday, partly cloudy skies, 35 the high and 26 the low. Kristen, that's a look at your weather.
Thank you, Michael. Still to come on Newscenter 22, Amy Reef will have the highlights from last night's girls sectional action. Stay with us.
Who is America's best couple?
The best dancers in the land pull out all the stops. Watch them go head to head, toe to toe, and cheek to cheek.
Who won America's Best Challenge tonight, ladies and gentlemen?
In America's Ballroom Challenge, you won't want to miss a single step. Watch it on PBS.
Warriors take out Spartans. Good evening, everyone. For TV 22 Sports, I'm Amy Reeve. North Knox ended South Knox this season for the third year in a row, beating the Lady Spartans 49-20 on the opening night of the Class 2A sectional at North Knox. The Warriors jumped out to a 12-3 first quarter lead and continued to pull away. The Spartans were hampered by the 9 turnovers in the opening period and 23 for the game. South Knox coach C.J. Carey credits North Knox for overplaying the passing lanes and forcing steals.
North Knox is the best team that we've played in this past month of basketball. We have played some good basketball, but again, they came out with a game plan that it definitely worked. And the kids had a great second half of the year. Again, we didn't finish this last game. Didn't finish like we wanted, but it definitely isn't indicative of what the kind of year we had and what we're capable of doing down the road.
Knox got 15 second-half points from Megan Miller to lead the Warriors to their 19th win of the season. McKenna Williams tossed in 10 points, and Emily Tillingman had 9 points. Courtney Margineau scored 8 points for South Knox, which closes the books on a 9-12 campaign. North Knox will play 5th-ranked Mitchell in Friday night's sectional semifinals. The Blue Jackets advance with a 64-45 win over Linton. Vincennes Reveille advanced to the sectional semifinals at the Class A sectional Bar Reeve. The Lady Patriots edged Shoals 32-30. Abby Jones led Reveille with 13 points. The Lady Patriots will play North Davies Friday night at 6 o'clock. The Lady Cougars defeated Washington Catholic 27-21 in overtime to advance. Lagoti will host Bar Reeve in the other sectional semifinal game. In top 25 college hoops action, Duke beat North Carolina for the 16th time in the last 19 meetings of that storied Tobacco Road rivalry. J.J. Redick scored 22 of his game-high 35 points in the second half of the 4th-ranked Blue Devils' 87-83 win over the Tar Heels. Duke raced out to a 17-point lead, watched Carolina rally to take a brief lead before Duke recovered at the end. Redick was 12 of 22 from the field, including 5 three-pointers. Former Kentucky Mr. Basketball Chris Lofton scored 31 points to lead 11th-ranked Tennessee to a 75-67 win over Kentucky. Lofton hit 7 three-pointers to help the Volunteers snap an 8-game losing streak to the Wildcats and win at Rupp Arena for the first time in 6 years. Randolph Moore scored 20 points for the Wildcats, who lost their second straight game to fall back 3 of Tennessee in the SEC's Eastern Division. There's plenty of college basketball action tonight as number 24 Indiana plays at Wisconsin. Tonight's game is important for both teams. The Hoosiers are 5-0 in conference at home and 0-3 on the road. The Hoosiers have lost 3 of their past 4 games and 4 of their past 7. It may be even more significant for the Badgers. Wisconsin has dropped 3 games in a row, including Saturday's 70-62 setback at Purdue. Overall, the Badgers have lost 5 of their past 6 games. Also on tonight's college hoops schedule, Purdue is at Michigan State and Notre Dame hosts Rutgers. The Indiana Pacers will try for 3 straight victories for the first time since mid-December when they host the Portland Trail Blazers tonight. Without the services of all-star Jermaine O'Neal, point guard Jamal Tinsley, and forward Austin Crozier, a banged-up Steven Jackson scored 20 points to lead the Pacers to a 93-85 win over Detroit on Saturday night. In the NBA last night, the surprising Atlanta Hawks won their 4th game in the last 5 starts by edging the Detroit Pistons 99-98. Joe Johnson scored 29 points, including the winning layup with 7.5 seconds left. That denies the Pistons their 40th win. Detroit is on its first 2-game losing streak of the season. The 39-8 Pistons are still off to their best start in franchise history. Josh Howard had 22 points, and the Dallas Mavericks beat the Los Angeles Lakers 102-87 for their 12th straight victory. That's the longest winning streak in the NBA this season. The Mavericks' winning streak coincides with their club record streak of holding a dozen straight opponents under 100 points. This time they showed they could defend Kobe Bryant, who was held to 24 points. He had averaged more than 52 points in his other 2 games against Dallas this year. The NHL continues to investigate Phoenix Coyotes assistant coach Rick Tocchet, who's been implicated as the financier of a nationwide sports betting ring. Tocchet was scheduled to meet with Commissioner Gary Bettman today, and New Jersey authorities also expect Tocchet to answer charges of promoting gambling, money laundering, and conspiracy. State authorities say several NHL players and Wayne Gretzky's wife were among those who placed bets, although not on hockey. A Chicago Cubs official says a $3.5 million bleacher expansion project at Wrigley Field is on target to be completed by opening day in 2 months. 1,800 seats are being added to the historic stadium, which is the 2nd oldest ballpark in the majors behind Boston's Fenway Park. Of the new seats, 250 near the right field foul pole will be designated as bleacher boxes and cost $60 apiece. And Kristen, that's a look at sports.
Thanks, Amy. Still to come on Newscenter 22, the best in the music industry will be honored tonight. I'll have the preview of the 48th Annual Grammy Awards when Newscenter 22 continues.
Coming up this week on 22 Magazine, a special half-hour discussion on Medicare's prescription drug coverage or Medicare Part D. If you're on Medicare or know someone who is, you need to watch this show. Noreen Kent and Patricia Howerton, counselors with the Senior Health Insurance Program, will be my guests. Medicare Part D the next time on 22 Magazine, Saturday night at 7:30 on Wvut.
The best in the music industry will be honored tonight. Mariah Carey is up for 8 awards, including Album and Record of the Year. She'll be among the stars to watch the 48th Annual Grammy Awards in Los Angeles. Kanye West and John Legend also have 8 nominations each. U2 guitarist The Edge says he was shocked that U2 got 5 Grammy nominations. He figured Americans were sick of U2 by this point. He says he'd be surprised if they won all 5, although he feels How to Dismantle an Atomic Bomb is one of their strongest albums ever. And that's all for this evening. For Amy Reif and Michael Nice, I'm Kristen Miller. Good night.